Africa is changing, but Ethiopia is accelerating. Our youth are no longer just hopeful, they are skilled. Our cities are not just growing, they are transforming. Our industries are not just developing, they are awakening. And in the heart of this transformation, something extraordinary happened. Ethiopia built 300 drones in 3 months. No cheating crowds. No global headlines. No dramatic announcements. Just late-night factories, determined engineers, and a nation that finally decided we will no longer outsource our future. But what Ethiopia accomplished wasn't just about machines. It was about mindset, the moment a country stops asking can we and starts declaring we are. What's more fascinating is how quietly the world reacted. No major think tanks exploded with alarm. No big media network said a word louder than a whisper. Almost as if recognizing Ethiopia's rise too loudly would violate some unwritten rule, a rule about who is allowed to innovate and who is expected to follow. But how did Skywind and Aerobay, two factories most people couldn't even locate on a map, suddenly become the birthplace of a technological shift in Africa? Let's step inside. If you really want to understand how Ethiopia produced 300 drones in 90 days, forget the numbers for a moment and step into the atmosphere. Walk into Skywind on a normal afternoon and something hits you instantly. This doesn't feel like developing world manufacturing. There's no hesitation, no self-doubt, no we hope this works. Instead, there's pressure, the silent, powerful kind that exists only in places where people know they're building something history will remember. Engineers move with a controlled urgency. Technicians speak in quick, focused arguments over wiring, calibration, software tweaking. A guidance module is being tested at one table. A carbon fiber wing waits at another, sharp and aerodynamic, almost hungry for flight. Nothing about the room feels accidental. It feels inevitable. A few kilometers away, Aerobay carries a different energy, less ignition, more navigation. This is where flight endurance is studied, where satellite data is interpreted, where real-time diagnostics flicker across screens. No one here is shocked at what they're accomplishing. No one carries the look of I can't believe we're doing this. Instead, they wear something far more powerful, confidence without permission. These factories don't feel like the birthplace of machines. They feel like the birthplace of a new national character. A switch from dependency to ownership, from waiting to building, from asking to doing. And that leads us to the next question. What are these drones actually being used for? To understand it, erase the Hollywood image of drones as only weapons. That's not Ethiopia's story. Ethiopia's drones serve far more human, practical, nation-building roles. Africa's most silent revolution, a single drone can scan hundreds of hectares in minutes. It identifies soil moisture changes, early crop diseases and water stress, invasive pests. The difference between guessing and knowing can feed millions. Suddenly, farmers who relied on instinct now operate with a precision previously reserved for foreign experts. This is what sovereignty looks like. Eyes where humans cannot go. The grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is one of the continent's greatest engineering feats. But maintaining it requires inspections every hour, every day. Drones now examine microcracks, thermal shifts, vibration, anomalies, construction consistency. They inspect power lines, solar farms, water treatment plants, highways, giving Ethiopia a set of eyes sharper than any human team. The silent shield of Ethiopia's borders stretch across mountains, valleys, deserts. Patrolling them manually is almost impossible. Drones change that. One drone can cover what multiple patrol units need hours to monitor. It spots unusual movements, tracks suspicious activity, and provides real-time intel across impossible terrain. In the rare moments where force is required, armed drones offer precision without risking soldiers' lives. Not for spectacle, but for necessity. When the 300-drone achievement became public, something predictable happened. Critics said they're not really manufacturing. They're just assembling imported parts. This isn't real innovation. And while it's true that Ethiopia imports engines, sensors, and some electronics, here's the part critics avoid. Every drone-producing nation started exactly the same way. Turkey did. India did. Iran did. Even the United States does. Assembly is the classroom. Integration is the exam. Iteration is the skill. Full production comes last. Ethiopia is climbing the same staircase others climbed, just faster. The criticism wasn't just technical. It was psychological. Many people worldwide still carry the belief that African nations shouldn't be capable of this. That if Africa builds something advanced, it must not be real. That belief is dying slowly, but surely. Now here's the real mystery. Why didn't the world react loudly if a Western or Asian country built 300 drones in 3 months? Global media would explode with analysis. But with Ethiopia, silence. Cold, deliberate silence. Because drones represent independence from foreign surveillance, independence from military donors, independence from outside political pressure, independence from aid-driven insecurity narratives. When an African nation strengthens its own intelligence and security, it disrupts too many assumptions. Ethiopia didn't just build drones. It broke a narrative, and the world didn't know how to respond. Even if Western media ignored the story, African nations didn't. Engineers took notice. Governments took notice. Military planners took notice. Universities took notice. Ethiopia unintentionally created something powerful. A new continental precedent. Suddenly countries like Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, all with rising tech ecosystems, realized this isn't impossible. This isn't futuristic. This isn't for others. It's doable. Here, on African soil, with African minds. Ethiopia didn't just build drones, it built belief. African nations now understand a new truth. Power in the 21st century isn't just military size. It's data surveillance, autonomous systems, technological autonomy, and drones sit at the intersection of all of them. For the first time, Africa sees drones not as luxury machines, but as tools of food security, border stability, infrastructure safety, environmental monitoring, and national sovereignty. Ethiopia has positioned itself, intentionally or not, as a potential continental supplier. Building 300 drones in 3 months is a spark. But sparks don't last forever. Now Ethiopia must transform momentum into mastery, a long-term identity of technological excellence that survives politics, economics, and global competition. But here's what truly matters. Ethiopia already crossed the hardest barrier. It began. And in the story of nations, beginning is everything. Now they learn applications. Aerodynamics, composite materials, microelectronics, automation, embedded systems, AI-guided flight systems. Subjects that once felt abstract suddenly have real factories asking real graduates to solve real problems. And nothing accelerates innovation like urgency. Right now, Ethiopia imports many core components. But something is changing. Local workshops are experimenting with carbon fiber molds, battery casings, stabilizer frames, lightweight polymers, internal wiring systems, circuit board assembly. It starts with small screws, joints, bolts. But small becomes medium, and medium becomes strategic. Every component produced locally shifts power from dependence to autonomy, from consumption to creation, from vulnerability to resilience. This is how technological nations are born, not in a single moment, but through thousands of incremental wins. Hardware is only half the story. The soul of a drone is its software, flight logic, mapping algorithms, image recognition, data processing. Ethiopian software teams are now working on AI that identifies crop diseases, automated border surveillance patterns, night vision optimization, automated emergency landing protocols, terrain-aware navigation, data encryption systems. This is where Ethiopia's young tech talent thrives, and where the country can leapfrog others. Hardware can be imported. Software is where nations differentiate. Historically, global power was measured through armies, fleets, and bases. But the new world is quiet. Power is no longer held by who has the biggest fleet, but by who has the best intelligence. Not who has the most soldiers, but who has the most autonomous systems. Not who controls land, but who controls data. And drones sit at the center of this transformation. For Ethiopia, this changes everything. For the first time, the country can see every border in real time. Remote mountains, desert crossing, dense valleys, high-risk zones. Ethiopia now possesses the eyes it was denied for decades. Ethiopia's breakthrough didn't stay inside its borders. It created shock waves across the continent. African nations are whispering the same question: if Ethiopia can do it, why not us? And that question is powerful. It is the first crack in the wall of doubt that has surrounded African innovation for decades. Kenya is expanding robotics programs. Rwanda is building drone corridors. Nigeria is investing in aerospace. Ghana is developing AI hubs. Tanzania is opening new research centers. A silent race has begun, not for war, but for technological sovereignty. For the first time, Africa is no longer asking the world to lead. Africa is challenging the world to keep up. But let's talk honestly. Not everyone is comfortable with this shift. A technologically independent Africa means less foreign military influence, less dependency on aid, fewer strategic vulnerabilities, fewer reasons to accept external pressure. For decades, Africa's weakness was profitable for others. A strong Africa that is a different world entirely. Ethiopia's drones symbolize more than machines. They represent the collapse of long-standing assumptions. They represent the end of Africa's place in the global hierarchy. They represent a future where Africans are no longer subjects of technological decisions, but creators. And that future scares people. Not because Africa is a threat, but because Africa is becoming equal.